Hi everyone, welcome to the Transitions Collective. I'm Mary Clavier. This week I'm speaking with Laura Patricelli from Design Mastermind. Laura and I are digging into the different aspects of web design, branding, and how those impact your business. So tune in and enjoy. Hi Laura, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mary. Thanks for having me.
Great, I'm so excited for you to be here with us today to talk all things branding
Yes.
and where we go with our businesses. Okay, so we'll jump right in. If you could first tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Hi. My name is Laura Patricelli. I am the lead designer and creative director at my studio, Design Mastermind NYC. And I actually majored in graphic design and photography. I've been designing for 15 years, but I've only been in business full-time as a freelancer for the past 5 years after working in corporate for a while.
Excellent. Yeah, the transition from corporate to being on your own is something that we'll kind of dive into, especially for this kind of work. So
Yes.
let's dig right in then. So for transitioning from corporate work to being on your own to being a designer, I know I've done consulting work. Consulting and freelance work is a big way that people go and
Mm-hmm.
experiment to do their own thing. So can you tell us a little bit about your transition and how you
Yes.
and how you went to that?
You know, my story is kind of funny. I like telling my story because I do feel like a lot of times when people either make the transition or they start working for themselves for the first time, they can get frustrated and then go back into that corporate life without considering maybe it just wasn't the right time. So after graduating from college and working as a manager in retail at a mall in Southwest Florida for a couple of years, I moved up to New York. This was about 10 years ago. And I actually moved here originally to start a freelance design business with a friend of mine from college.
Oh,
And I tried. I was not experienced. I did not have the skills to get new clients, to make the connections in this brand new world that I was living in.
mm-hmm.
It's the first time that I was living as an adult outside of Florida, and everything kind of fell apart. We tried really hard. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know the first steps to take. I didn't have the right network or the right resources. And so for a second, I was going to move back to Florida. For a second, I was just like, oh, well, I failed. That's it. But I applied for all these design jobs. And if there's one thing about New York, there is definitely no dearth of design jobs. They are everywhere. And I ended up working in corporate game design, like mobile app game design, for about 3 years. And in that time, I got the sales skills, the interaction skills, the communication skills that I'm sure we'll go over later.
Yeah.
And when it came time to actually accept my first solo freelance client, I felt like I had gotten to a point where I could actually manage that work. So my good friend and fellow freelancer, her name is Hillary Weiss. She's an amazing copywriter, and she actually passed me my very first client. And I was still working full time. I was very lucky that one client, Kendrick Shope, just happened to be a sales coach, and she introduced me to this world of coaching and consulting. And once I started working with her and producing good work, I was teaching myself a lot. I was kind of filling in the blanks. So it was good that I had that corporate backing when I first started, because it allowed me to really finish my learning, finish my freelance education, and get to the point where I could actually take on more than just the one client. So she started referring me to her clients, and she actually included me in a group program that she was running where her participants could take advantage of design work with me. And only 3 of the women took advantage out of 10, but all 3 of them are still my clients to this day.
Whoa, that's crazy. That's
This was
awesome.
like 6 years ago.
That's
So
awesome.
it was just really lucky. Working in the coaching and consulting sphere, everybody is very much into the networking aspect of running your own business and really filling in the blanks. For instance, if you are really good at what you do, but you're not really good at sales, then hire a sales coach. If you're looking at, much like yourself, to transition into a new career, transition out of the corporate world, there's a coach for that. In the same sense, there's a designer for that as well. And getting into that niche right from the get-go really allowed me to build a foundation for my business that was focused on this specific type of client. And within a year of having this side business, which I kept rebranding over and over again, which I'm going to tell you later what to do, but I was able to quit my job and start freelancing full time because it got to the point where I was making enough money to pay my enormous Manhattan apartment rent. Even though I wasn't charging what I should, but I was just starting out. So that's to be expected.
You were still learning along the way. I love that though, because you started something. Well, the first way you tried to tackle it didn't work as you expected, right? So you went and did the corporate thing and then took advantage at the same time of trying to do other things and then slowly transition. That's a big part of the Transitions Collective too, because people don't really talk about all those things that it takes and all those like steps. It's just like, oh, well, I had a corporate job and now I have this thriving business. And there's like so much in between, you know?
There's so much. And sometimes it does go back and forth. Sometimes your first attempt you might not be ready for it. Or maybe you just had a baby or you just got married or something that's preventing you from really diving into that full-time business. Right. Or to your side business full time that you would otherwise. It can be, you just have to be patient with yourself and not just put a big stamp on your forehead that says failure and then just see that whenever you look in the mirror, because that's not how life works.
Right. I love that. So true. I love that. Okay, so let's dig right in then to branding and a little bit more about what you do and how you help your clients and some tips that you can give for people starting out. So entrepreneurs that are starting out in their business, building their side business, growing it, maybe they've recently left corporate as well. They're in those earlier stages. What design tips do you recommend for people in that stage? What are the most important things for them to focus on versus not?
So when you're just starting out, it's really a matter of choosing where to put the funds that you have to put into your business. Unless you have a background in design, I really recommend spending some money on your initial branding. That is really going to play a huge role in the consistency of your brand moving forward, and also just in the speed to which you can roll out all the materials that you want to make for your business. If you're just starting out, it's so important, because I've seen people be cheap or try and do it themselves. And logo design and brand design, it really takes a specific eye to create something that stands out and that you can actually feel proud to put on all of your stuff moving forward. It's building that foundation. And once the foundation is built, there's so much that you can DIY. There's so much that there's so many resources and templates that you can use. But unless you have that foundation built by a professional, then you're going to be doubting. You're going to be wondering, how does this look to everyone? Am I saying the right thing? Is my messaging on point? Which also brings me to the second thing that I do think you should spend money on when you're starting out. And that's also an initial design consultation. Now, a design consultation oftentimes just comes with whatever sort of branding package you're getting. But if you really can't afford a full branding package from someone that you trust, that has a really good reputation, that you really love their portfolio, if you can't afford that, which you might not, but even just getting one consultation from a pro designer will help put you on the right track and at least give you an idea of what you should be asking for from whoever it is you're working with, whether it's a virtual assistant, a college student designer. If you decide to really be cheap and go on 99 designs or something like that, which obviously I'm not a fan of, but I get that that is an option.
Right.
But paying for that pro consultation right up front is going to get you feeling much more confident. It'll also give you a lot of resources. Usually, like when I do my professional consultations, I'll have my clients fill out like a big form, and we'll really get into it. We'll pick out colors on that call. I'll give you a direction for the logo so that you could go with somebody super cheap and not have it look horrible. I'll also direct you to premium templates that you can purchase. And when I say premium templates, I'm not talking about like $1,000 for a PDF resource. I'm talking about going on creativemarket.com and spending $15 on a PDF template in Word that you can use to build out your resources and your freebies. Because starting from scratch or asking a virtual assistant to start from scratch is not going to get you good results. It's going to get you just crappy design. And there's nothing worse than crappy design. You might as well just toss some black text on a white page and it would probably be more effective.
Right. In the age, especially with social media and Instagram and all the pretty photos and everything, I mean, not that you have to have the perfect thing right from the get-go, but it's the first look, right? It's the first look at your business. So,
right. And it's giving people that first impression that's going to determine whether they become a fan of yours and want to hear what you have to say, or whether they write you off as a novice, which is a really common issue that I find with a lot of business owners, much like your clients that are just starting out. And appearing to be more established than you are is really the goal when you start out. You're going to have that imposter syndrome, but I've been a designer for like 15 years and I'm still have imposter syndrome. It's just part of working in a creative field and building something for yourself. You're going to feel like you're not qualified, but really you are qualified to produce for your clients. It's really just a matter of knowing where to make the investment and choose outsourcing. And I was going to say the other thing that I do recommend outsourcing is copywriting, because a lot of people think they can write really well, but
I know I can't.
It's so important.
I always need help with
like getting a copywriter on board, especially if you're building your own website, which you can. I am all about when you're just starting out, DIY your website. You do not need to spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a gorgeous website until you're bringing enough money in that you can actually justify that. You don't really want to waste money on a crappy website when there's so many amazing DIY templates out there. And much like what I was saying before with creativemarket.com, you can go on there and find these gorgeous pre-designed templates with step-by-step instructions on how to install WordPress and upload your theme. Squarespace is a great resource when you're starting out. They really make it foolproof. It's super simple, but you just cannot bomb your website when they make it so foolproof.
I actually used the theme. Yeah, you brought up these memories for me. I used the theme when I was first starting. I put like a Shopify. I went on Creative Market and used Shopify and found a theme, like a fashion theme for the underwear. So selling the underwear did this whole, and then I'd say like about a year later. So I struggled my way through that. Squarespace, I think, would be way easier now, but
but there's just there's so much less that you can do with Squarespace. So before you choose a website platform, again, with the design consultation, that's something that you'd go over with the designer.
That would have been helpful for me. Yes. But then I eventually found a web person and then we got everything sorted and did a brand board and the whole thing. But that's funny. It's a website DIY until you can justify more.
Right. Totally, because you really don't want to cheap out on a website. You'd be better off not cheaping out on a premium, like pro design consultation, where a designer like myself will sit you down and talk you through what exactly do you need in your website? What sort of features are you looking for? If you're just looking for like a fancy business card, Squarespace would be great, because especially if you are moving forward and investing in premium branding, then they're going to give you a lot of the assets you need to move forward with building your own website. It's like really just they put together the foundation, and then you and I would say a virtual assistant who has a little bit of experience in web stuff, because a lot of VAs do have experience in web stuff. So bringing on a VA to help you DIY your website instead of just outsourcing the whole thing to a VA, which I don't recommend. But working alongside a VA is definitely something that will at least get you a website. And that's really what matters up front.
Right. For the beginning, the goals are like pretty basic. Like they're like, you know, simplify them so that it's not too, well, hopefully less overwhelming, right?
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, really just as like a really quick checklist, just the only things that you really need to be spending money on up front are design consultation. If you can afford it, the initial branding, like the logo, the brand board, the colors, all that fun stuff, and copywriting.
Okay, now let's get into how do you find the right person or people to help you do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's pretty much, there's a 3-step process that I recommend when people ask me this question. The first is ask trusted friends and colleagues, because they're not going to lie to you. They're going to tell you exactly what their experiences was like working with a designer. And if they really did like the experience, then they'll give you their information. Oftentimes, don't ever be afraid to ask people like, who did your website? Because a lot of times that person is going to get a referral bonus from recommending you if you decide to go with the designer. So don't feel like you're being annoying by asking that. Really, ask initial friends and colleagues. If you don't really get any referrals from there, then what you can do is just search online for either competitors or people in your sphere, and either contact them and ask who did their website, or look at the footer, and there could be a backlink to that designer or that agency's website. And if none of that works out, if you can't get a hold of the website person, if nobody has good recommendations, then just hop on Facebook and go into a group that is relevant to your industry, because that's a big thing. You really want to get a referral from other people who do somewhat similar stuff to what you do, and ask them for referrals. Facebook groups, even just having a post on your feed that asks for design recommendations, you're probably going to get a lot of recommendations. But then once you do get those recommendations, definitely go through their portfolio and see if it's in line with your style, because even though every website is probably going to be different, you'll get a feel for the designer's style just from looking through multiple projects and seeing everything they have in their portfolio. You're going to see like, oh, they really love color. They love angles, or this designer really keeps it clean. I like that. I like minimalism. So you're going to have a vibe from just looking at a designer's portfolio, and also try and get a feel for their pricing as well. A lot of designers don't put pricing on their websites, but you can usually get a feel based on the types of clients that they work for. If they're working for like all big companies or agencies or corporations, they're probably not going to get out of bed for less than $10,000.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind before you book a call, because otherwise you could just be wasting their time. And that's happened to me a few times, where people get in touch with me and they're only looking to spend like $1,500 on a website. And I'm like, you're looking for a student. You're looking for a design student. You are not looking for a professional graphic designer.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay. How about, because I found this for myself, even with building my membership site for the Transitions Collective. So I had to go and ask people for recommendations. Then when you get to the point of finding these recommendations, and you look at their designs and you see if that would be a fit for you, what would be the next set of things that you kind of ask them or that you want to find out from them in terms of working together? Because I feel like
being
people
on the
have,
same page.
yes, because people have so many stories about like, oh, my project went bad, and it's, it can be for such a variety of reasons. I'm sure you have a lot to say, like with respect to communication and those kinds of things, but in general, like, what are some of those things that they should do or can do to prepare for those conversations?
Yeah, that's a huge one. I wish that every person I've had a new client call with would kind of know how to prepare for it. And I try to prepare people, like I get in touch with them ahead of time and kind of ask them specific questions.
We'll
but
share this with everyone so that they
yes,
can know.
exactly. But when you are interviewing a designer, your designer should have a very clear idea of what you're looking for. So something that you would ask would be, here are specific website examples. Can you produce something similar?
Okay.
That's huge, because if you have specific examples of what you're looking for, then there's no surprises. They can see the degree to which you're going to need them to work on stuff. Like, for example, if you just give them like a kind of basic looking Squarespace website and they're like, yeah, this will be fine, it's going to really impact the quote that you get too. Because if you want this super custom build with all these pages, and then you show it to the designer and the designer says, okay, that's great, but I'm going to have to quote you like $7,000 or something like that. At least then you're opening up the communication and you're allowing the designer to get a clear picture of what it is you're looking for. Another thing you should ask are, do you have any milestones, or what does your design process look like? Because understanding ahead of time what you can expect from your designer, like what they consider to be project milestones, it'll also, again, no surprises. You'll understand exactly when you can anticipate those milestones and about when you can expect them. Otherwise, you could go for weeks without hearing from them. But if you know that the next milestone isn't due until the end of the month, then you're not going to feel frantic. You're not going to be nervous. And that's not going to come across in your communication either.
Right. Because they're knowing what to expect. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's actually the last thing I was going to mention is just asking about communication standards. Basically, when can I expect to hear from you? And also, what's the quickest way to get a hold of you? Because by email is not necessarily the quickest way to get a hold of someone.
Right.
It might be what they prefer, but asking them about the speed to which they'll respond will usually get you something like a Skype username or a Voxer username that you can use to just touch base without having to fill their email box up and make it seem like a drudgery. When I get a quick an ask from a client like, hey, could you just give me a quick update on the timing via Voxer or Skype, then I have no problem being like, okay, I'm at this point in the next month, probably expect within about 3 days. And then it's not a big deal. It's not like I'm having to like craft an email. But yeah, it really makes a big difference if you talk about that up front.
Excellent. Okay. So we have, before we wrap up, there's a couple more things. You have some freebies for our audience, some things that you want to share with them, and some information. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I have the first freebie that you can actually get on designmastermind.nyc/feedback. It's all about effective communication. It's about how to talk to your designer about the work that they've done, especially if you don't like what they've come out with, how to be respectful and polite. I give you examples from clients of mine who have given great feedback versus those that gave really bad feedback and then the project ended horribly. So I like to kind of walk potential clients through that ahead of time. But if you're looking to outsource or you already have a designer, that's going to be a huge resource for you to reference. And you can also go to designmastermind.nyc/outsource. And that's just like a really quick, easy cheat sheet that tells you exactly what you need to be spending money on, how much you can expect, and sort of the hierarchy of what to look for when you're outsourcing.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I think a lot of people, the design and, branding and website process seems very overwhelming. It's necessary, but also overwhelming because we want to get it so right, but don't know how to do that,
Right, exactly. And we didn't really get to talk about like brand messaging at all. Do we have any time left?
Oh yeah, let's
Okay.
give that a few minutes too, because that's just as
it's so useful. Yeah. And it's really my main message that when I do webinars, when I do any sort of live training, I really like to focus in on what exactly is important in your brand, whether you're doing it yourself, whether you have design experience and can handle it, whether you're outsourcing. There's a really easy way to remember what is important, and that's the 3 C's, and that's clarity, creativity, and consistency. Clarity is the most important one because, like I said before, if it's not legible, if it's all like centered text and all in cursive handwriting, it's not going to matter how good the rest of the design is or how creative it is. If people can't easily skim it, it's not going to work. It's not going to be effective. People are not going to have patience to try and read your crappy resource or whatever. And clarity also refers to your messaging itself. You want to be concise. You want to just make it abundantly clear from the get-go what it is you provide and who you provide it to. As long as those 2 questions are being answered, then you're good to go. You don't need to get flowery. You don't need to ramble. Less is more when it comes to website content and social media marketing, for sure.
And kind of going back to your avatar, right? Your ideal client avatar, and keeping them in mind for the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Even for the graphics and everything, what would they respond to?
Right, exactly. And the creativity end of things also comes into play because you're trying to stand out. You're trying to be memorable, and you're trying to really get that first impression from your audience. Otherwise, they're just not going to remember you. And if your design is a really good reflection of your unique style, it reflects you, but it also stands out and isn't just run-of-the-mill cookie cutter, then you're going to be doing the right thing. And in terms of consistency, again, this is something I really had an issue with when I was just starting out. Maintaining consistency when all you want to do is just rebrand every week. You want your brand to be recognizable. You want people to remember a specific color scheme or a specific logo. You want them to be able to glance at your logo and immediately associate that little icon with you and your brand. And that's where consistency really makes a difference.
That's so true. I earlier on, I've rebranded once. So for Brief Transitions, I was Althea and Anesi to start, but which had special meaning for me because it means healing and comfort in Greek. But when people reading it, they didn't know how to pronounce it or say it, and it was a mouthful, and so it didn't work.
And that's where the clarity aspect comes in. Like, unless it's immediate, it's not going to work. I mean, I went from Laura Borealis to Studio Borealis to Key Lime Web Design to Media Osa, all over the place. And finally, I settled on Design Mastermind, and I'm just going to sit there for a while, even though I can't afford the domain still. Designmastermind.com, still $2,000. You can find me at designmastermind.nyc, baby.
That's just as good. Hey, that gives you more personality.
Right?
Your website.
It could be a part of my brand, but now I can't move.
right. Multiple locations. You're just gonna grow everywhere.
Designmastermind.earth. No, don't go there. That's not a real domain.
And people remember Brief Transitions now. It's much more memorable name for the underwear. So yeah, it's super
Yeah, I
important.
like that. And
Super
also
important.
the Transitions Collective, it
Yeah.
works because
Yeah.
it tells
Tying
exactly
to,
what you do. It targets
right.
your market. It talks about you being an organization as opposed to a single entity. It says a
Right.
lot about your
Yeah.
brand without having to just have your name on it.
Right. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's good. From
I
a
got a
design
pass. I
perspective.
feel good. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did.
That
I
makes me feel
approve. Stamp of approval.
good. I used a professional. I did not do that all myself.
Yeah, no, yeah, you could tell. You could tell.
Yeah.
I could tell when you gave me your business card. I was like, oh yeah, this
Yeah.
has the
I
stamp
was
of
happy with
approval
the
on it.
business cards too. Yes.
Yeah, they
They
look
make a
really
big difference.
good.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I did my own printouts or whatever when I first started with my first
Mhm.
one, but
Right.
then
And
I
you can
threw out a
definitely
couple bucks.
DIY the business card when you're starting out. Again,
Yeah.
creativemarket.com, they have so many business card templates to
Yeah.
use.
I didn't know they had that.
Yeah, and even with Canva, like Canva, I
Yeah.
believe has business cards. They have social media marketing graphics.
Yes.
Use their templates. You
I
don't have
use,
to stick with
yes.
the design. Like you can tweak it, but
Right.
they definitely have professional designers making those templates.
Right. And when you feel like you can invest more, I spend the monthly amount for Canva. It's like $12 or $13.
It's worth it.
And you can save all your brand colors, all
Mhm.
your logos, all your fonts.
You can
And then
upload fonts.
upload fonts. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you can just do all of your, and then consistency, you're there easily staying consistent with all of your social media graphics, your
Mhm.
flyers, and any other communications that you have. So I
Yes.
use it all the time.
Yeah, no, I definitely recommend. I'm not an affiliate or anything. I
No,
just
yeah.
recommend
Yeah.
yeah, just paying the extra money. As a designer who I work a lot inside my clients' Canva accounts, and the
Mm.
premium accounts are just so much easier to work
Oh,
with.
yeah. Yeah.
All the palettes you can use and organize, and
Yeah. I
yeah.
held out for the longest time, can I tell you? And the day I switched, I was like, why did I not do this
What
sooner?
a
This is
difference!
what a difference.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah, it makes a
exactly.
huge difference.
Okay, well, I have a final question before you give us your details on where we can find you, although we
Yes,
know .nyc.
yes.
But something that I like to ask at all the interviews is, what skill from corporate has helped you most as an entrepreneur?
Ooh, geez. I would say that's a twofold answer. The first would definitely be communication, communicating with my team and also
Mhm.
communicating with higher ups,
Mhm.
because the way that you communicate with a higher up is kind of reflected in the way that you communicate with a client, because
Yeah.
they are paying you
Yeah.
the same way that a higher up is paying you. So being able to communicate effectively, but in a way that is not rude, it really makes a huge
Yeah.
difference, because that isn't necessarily something that a lot of people just can do.
Right.
And in the same sense, the second thing that I would say I learned from working corporate is patience. Being able to just be in the stage of the project that I'm in and not try and run forward, especially if a client is not ready to move forward or my team in corporate was not ready to move forward. Being able to have patience with the variety of personalities that you work with,
Yes.
um,
That's
that
true.
all it really makes a huge difference, because
Yeah.
when you're in that corporate environment, you don't choose
Right.
who it is that you're in the office
Right.
with, unless of course you're in a managerial role. But even
Right.
then, like, you're most likely not going to have any say in who it is you're working with. So you're going to be working with characters that maybe aren't as skilled as
Yeah.
you at communicating or getting the job done. So being able to have patience both with yourself and with your team, with your clients, in a freelance capacity or as a business owner, that those skills cannot be taught in
Yeah.
school. They are just learned from working that corporate life, and just getting the experience points makes a huge difference.
Yep. That's a excellent point. So true. So true.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. So can you tell everyone then where they can find you?
Yes, as I mentioned before, you can find me at designmastermind.nyc. And you can also find me on Facebook if you just search Design Mastermind, or do facebook.com/Design Mastermind. you will find me. I also have a Facebook group called DIY Savvy that will let you post your marketing graphics and get some feedback. And it's a fun little community.
Awesome. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. We'll put it all in the show notes.
Okay,
So
sounds
that
great.
people can easily access it along
Excellent.
with the freebies.
Yes, yeah, and I have the two that I think you all will get a lot of value from.
Awesome. Laura, thank you so much. This has been so great. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise with all of us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Mary.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Laura. I thought she had so many great points around branding and how impactful it is. So what that does for your business when someone sees your logo and feels about your logo and your colors, does it communicate what you want to communicate to your avatar? And I also love that she talked about communication. So really digging into how to communicate clearly with people, knowing what you want and how you can express that when you're working with designers and other vendors on different aspects of your business. So if you want to hear more about Laura, you can go to designmastermind.nyc, and we'll have links to everything in the show notes as well. If you're interested in learning more about our membership community, please go to thetransitionscollective.com/community. We'll be there to provide more information. And thanks for tuning in. Until next time. Bye.